Hi everyone, so today what we are going to be discussing is living with chronic disease. A few of our objectives today are to define the difference between illness, sickness, and disease, explain a chronic disease and how common they are, learn negative aspects of coping with chronic disease, find support for chronic disease, and how to maintain a sense of self when handling a chronic disease. So the first thing we're going to look at is illness. Illness is used to refer to the changing sense of feeling unwell. Illness does not define a specific pathology, but it refers to a person's subjective experience of it, such as discomfort, tiredness, or general dissatisfaction. Sickness is used to refer to socially and culturally held concepts of a health condition, like the fear of cancer or stigma of a mental illness, which in turn influences how the patient reacts to their illness. Diseases refer to a pathological condition or conditions of a part, organ, or system of organs resulting from different sources, such as infections, genetic defects, environmental stress. Oftentimes, disease may or may not show symptoms. Society institutes official and unofficial guidelines that can change the behavior of its members. In sociological terms, we call these guidelines taken on by an individual and handed out by society illness behavior and sick roles. The behavior of an individual with a chronic condition is shaped by these societal influences. A person who fully recovers from an illness returns to prior behaviors and roles. But sometimes there is only a partial recovery from an illness, like in chronic disease. So the individual has to change and adjust their previous behavior and roles to satisfy social expectations. This affects not only social expectations, but their own expectation of how they should behave while sick. So it leaves us asking, what is a chronic disease? A chronic disease is a disease that lasts for longer than 3 or more months, and that is the definition of the U.S. National Center for Health Statistics. A chronic disease generally cannot be prevented by vaccination or cured by medication, and nor does it just disappear. Here is a list of some of the most common chronic diseases in our country. As you can see, a lot of them we can recognize. Diabetes, there's asthma, bipolar, Parkinson's, Crohn's disease, think we all know someone that has one of these diseases. These are some of the statistics that I found on chronic disease in the United States. 3/4 of all deaths in the United States are from chronic disease. So cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes. Last year alone, we spent $1 trillion on the cost to treat chronic disease. When you compare that, we spent $700 billion on gas and $967 million on wildfires. So when you compare that to the cost of treating chronic disease, there is a major difference. We also have over half of us are suffering from chronic disease, almost 60% of our nation. Half of the adults with disabilities and get no exercise are 50% more likely to report chronic diseases. And by 2015, 20% of our population will be baby boomers. 70% of them will have chronic diseases, and over 50% of them will have 2 or more chronic diseases. We can look and see how prevalent chronic diseases are within our country. It's affecting the majority of our population, and chronic diseases change many aspects of life. People have identities at work and school, within relationships, hobby groups. Depending on the seriousness of the disease a person has, their disease may require them to deal with changes to pre-existing plans for the future. According to the Cancer Society, doing this is extremely frightening and has major effects on how someone with a chronic disease views their life. This causes many different emotions of anger, feeling out of control, sadness, fear, frustration, and guilt. Although living with chronic disease is not the most positive situation, many people are finding ways to empower themselves to accept and live their life with chronic disease. what we're going to do is take a look at some of the positive changes that can occur with chronic disease. We have looked at the negative aspects, such as, having anger, lack of feeling like you're in control, sadness, fear, frustration. But a lot of people actually find that they have positive feelings like gratitude, peace. They have an appreciation for life that they didn't have before. They have a sense of strength of their own body, changes in priorities, and clarity about the meaning of life and what their personal goals are. How do we go about maintaining a sense of self when we're dealing with a chronic disease? I believe in order to maintain a sense of self, it's really important that a person allows time to adjust to their disease. We need to talk with others who have been in similar situations. Doing that will build a network of friends and family who can support us. Ask for and accept help. Stay calm, and if you're able, embrace humor. Keep up your physical activity and routines, remain active. Learn to handle and live with your disease. This can provide hope for the future. Many facilities offer support groups and 24-hour helplines if problems may come up. We also need to remember that we need to let our doctors know any fears and worries so they can be supportive and answer any questions that we may have.